am back, awakened from my eternal slumber to reach out across time for a brave warrior who can take up the sword Excalibur and save Camelot.
What do you get when Merlin the Wizard snatches up a teenager to save King Arthur and Camelot? And it's not a lawsuit. You get another Walt Disney classic, a kid in King Arthur's court. The movie begins with our hero, Calvin Fuller, played by Thomas Ian Nicholas, who's back playing baseball after his arm healed. His team are called the Knights, and I guess that threw off Merlin's magic because there's no way Merlin had this kid in his mind when saving Camelot. An earthquake strikes the field and sucks Calvin in. Next thing he knows, he lands in the 6th century and runs into the Black Knight. Knights apprehend him and bring him to King Arthur's kingdom. Arthur is much older in this depiction. By older, I mean an overweight bumbling buffoon who has 2 daughters, Sarah, played by Kate Winslet, and Katey. Off the bat, Calvin's challenged to a duel by Lord Belasco, and anyone can tell you from this guy's haircut that his intentions are to overthrow the king. Calvin somehow wins the combat by playing rock and roll and earns a place in Arthur's kingdom.
Here goes.
While Belasco storms off like a little bitch. Like any sensible person, Calvin is pretty open to the idea that he's been brought back into a time where beheadings were considered family outings. I guess it helps when immediately after his arrival, he's already being macked on by the Princess Katey. And Lord Belasco?
I could choke the life right out of you, right now. No one would hear you scream.
Hold that thought.
Calvin eventually finds a magical well where he meets Merlin. And to Merlin's disappointment, he finds out that Calvin is the chosen one to save Camelot. He accepts that it's no mistake, but takes the time to dish out some roast.
No, I couldn't have got it wrong. But look at you. What manner of armor is that? And that animal sleeping on your head?
Animal? It's my hair.
Merlin explains Belasco's intentions and says he'll send Calvin back home if he saves Camelot. Until that time, Calvin wins over Katey by ruining the space-time continuum, which includes remaking Big Macs, rollerblades, and mountain bikes. While on a date, they run into the Black Knight, who isn't terrorizing civilians, but giving food to the people.
Don't mess the Black Knight! The Black Knight is one of the good guys?
Calvin also begins his training with Cain, who is played by none other than Daniel Craig. And it wouldn't be a Craig classic if he's not making out with somebody. In this case, it's Princess Sarah. Calvin finds out that there's a tournament going down for Sarah's hand in marriage. So Belasco schemes his way to become king by kidnapping her sister, Katey, and blackmailing her. Belasco also tries to murder Calvin, so he seeks help from Arthur, and explains Belasco has kidnapped Katey. It results in them fighting members of the Royal Guard, and where Arthur wields Excalibur again. And where Calvin shows the true purpose of the CD Walkman.
Oh, I'm afraid rock and roll will not work this time.
You're wrong. It is the great equalizer.
After that, they retrieve Katey and Calvin is knighted. We cut to the jousting tournament, where it conveniently comes down to Belasco and Cain. Winner marries Sarah. Belasco cheats and reflects a light in his opponent's eyes, winning the round, but Cain's still able to continue. For the most part.
How many fingers am I holding up?
Just a little off the top. Keep the sideburns.
They continue the match where this gem happens.
It's his black magic.
And Calvin illegally wins for Cain. But everyone seems to ignore that when the Black Knight appears and reveals to be Sarah. Arthur grants her wish to marry Cain and banishes Lord Belasco.
As for thee, Lord Belasco, thou art banished from my kingdom forever. If I were thee, I would not stop until thou reachest
Cucamonga.
Cucamonga.
The movie ends with Calvin returning back to the baseball field where the film started. But this time, he's not a little bitch anymore. He hits a home run, and when he makes it to home plate, Katey's there waiting for him and Arthur is chilling in the stands.
Say what?
This is a guilty pleasure movie because the ending leaves so many questions. Did Katey travel to the future? Are they ancestors of King Arthur? Did Lord Belasco find Cucamonga? Or perhaps the real question I should be asking is, how did this get a sequel?